Legal tender is a medium of payment recognized by a legal system to be valid for meeting a financial obligation. Paper currency and coins are common forms of legal tender in many countries. Legal tender is variously defined in different jurisdictions. Formally, it is anything which, when offered in payment, extinguishes the debt. Thus, personal checks, credit cards, and similar non-cash methods of payment are not usually legal tender. The law does not relieve the debt obligation until payment is tendered. Coins and banknotes are usually defined as legal tender. Some jurisdictions may forbid or restrict payment made other than by legal tender. For example, such a law might outlaw the use of foreign coins and banknotes or require a license to perform financial transactions in a foreign currency. In some jurisdictions, legal tender can be refused as payment if no debt exists prior to the time of payment. For example, vending machines and transport staff do not have to accept the largest denomination of banknote. Shopkeepers may reject large banknotes. This is covered by the legal concept known as invitation to treat. However, restaurants that do not collect payment until after a meal is served must accept any legal tender for the debt incurred in purchasing the meal. The right, in many jurisdictions, of a trader to refuse to do business with any person means a purchaser may not insist on making a purchase and so declaring a legal tender in law, as anything other than and offered payment for debts already incurred would not be effective. Etymology. The term legal tender is from Middle English tendren, French tender, meaning to offer. The Latin root is tendere, and the sense of tender as an offer is related to the etymology of the English word extend. Demonetization. Coins and banknotes may cease to be legal tender if new notes of the same currency substitute them or if a new currency is introduced replacing the former one. Examples of this are the United Kingdom adopting decimal currency in place of pounds, shillings, and pence in 1971. Banknotes remained unchanged. In 1968 and 1969, decimal coins which had precise equivalent values in the old currency were introduced, while decimal coins with no precise equivalent, 2.4D, 4.8D respectively, were introduced on the 15th of February 1971. The smallest and largest non-decimal circulating coins, the halfpenny and half-crown, were withdrawn in 1969, and the other non-decimal coins with no precise equivalent in the new currency were withdrawn later in 1971. Non-decimal coins with precise decimal equivalents, 1 and 2 shillings, remained legal tender either until the coins no longer circulated, or the equivalent decimal coins were reduced in size in the early 1990s. The 60 coin was permitted to remain in large circulation throughout the United Kingdom due to the London Underground Committee's large investment in coin-operated ticketing machines that used it. Old coins returned to the Royal Mint through the UK banking system will be redeemed for legal tender without time limits, but coins issued before 1947 have a higher value for the silver content than for the monetary value. The successor states of the Soviet Union replacing the Soviet ruble in the 1990s. Currencies used in the Eurozone before being replaced by the euro are not legal tender, but all banknotes are redeemable for euros for a minimum of 10 years. However, in Italy, Mario Monti declared Italian lira banknotes unredeemable for euros some months before the regular expiration of the 10-year term. And this is also true when the banknotes were lost before and then are found after the expiry of the term. All this became law even if it's against the Italian constitution. Individual coins of banknotes can be demonetized and cease to be legal tender, but the Bank of England does redeem all Bank of England banknotes for legal tender at its counters in London regardless of how old they are. Banknotes issued by retail banks in the UK are not legal tender, but one of the criteria for legal protection under the Forgery and Counterfeiting Act is that banknotes must be payable on demand. Therefore, withdrawn notes remain a liability of the issuing bank without any time limits. In the case of the euro, coins and banknotes of former national currencies were considered legal tender from the 1st of January 1999 until the 28th of February 2002. Legally, those coins and banknotes were considered non-decimal subdivisions of the euro. When the Iraqi Swiss dinar ceased to be legal tender in Iraq, it still circulated in the northern Kurdish regions, and despite lacking government backing, it had a stable market value for more than a decade. This example is often cited to demonstrate that the value of a currency is not derived purely from its legal status. This is also true of the paper money issued by the Confederate States of America during the American Civil War. The Confederate currency became worthless by its own terms after the war, since it could only be redeemed a stated number of years after a peace treaty was signed between the Confederacy and the United States. Demonetization is currently prohibited in the United States, and the Coinage Act of 1965 applies to all U.S. coins and currency regardless of age. The closest historical equivalent in the U.S. other than Confederate money was from 1933 to 1974, when the government banned most private ownership of gold bullion, including gold coins held for non-numismatic purposes. Now, however, even surviving pre-1933 gold coins are legal tender under the 1964 Act. Withdrawal from circulation. Banknotes and coins may be withdrawn from circulation, but remain legal tender. United States banknotes issued at any date remain legal tender even after they are withdrawn from circulation. Canadian $1 and $2 bills remain legal tender even if they have been withdrawn and replaced by coins, but Canadian $1,000 bills remain legal tender even if they are removed from circulation as they arrive at a bank. However, Bank of England notes that are withdrawn from circulation generally cease to be legal tender but remain redeemable for current currency at the Bank of England itself or by post. All paper and polymer issues of New Zealand banknotes issued from 1967 onwards are still legal tender. However, 1 and 2 cent coins are no longer used in Australia and New Zealand. Commemorative issues. Sometimes currency issues such as commemorative coins or transfer bills may be issued that are not intended for public circulation but are, nonetheless, legal tender. An example of such currency is Maundy money. Some currency issuers, particularly the Scottish banks, issue special commemorative banknotes which are intended for ordinary circulation. As well, some standard coins are minted on higher quality dies as uncirculated versions of the coin, for collectors to purchase at a premium. These coins are nevertheless legal tender. Some countries issue precious metal coins which have a currency value indicated on them which is far below the value of the metal the coin contains. These coins are known as non-circulating legal tender, or NCLT.